Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Found in Interpretation Podcast. Once again, I'm one of your co-hosts, Alain Breton, and I'm here with Brian. Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really excited for this episode. We've got Allyson Sigman with you, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Allyson.
Hi.
And today, in this episode, we're going to talk about Japanese English interpretation. All right, let's kick it. All right, we're here with Allyson. Allyson is an Ohio-based conference interpreter who works between Japanese and English. Born and raised in the United States, she began studying Japanese in high school through a love of drawing and animation. She did 3 study abroad trips to Japan to advance her language abilities. After earning an MA in 2010, she went to work at a Japanese manufacturing company in Ohio. She worked as an in-house interpreter until 2017 when she went freelance, working part of that time in Tokyo. In addition to her day job, Allyson teaches English Retour at Grint's Academy and formerly taught at interpreting courses at Rikyo University and the Ohio State University. All right, Allyson. So, how does one become an interpreter for Japanese? Did you go to Japan to do some courses, or did you base all that in the United States?
So that's a very interesting question because I'm a bit of a rarity. There are 2 main paths that people tend to take when they're doing Japanese interpreting. One is they'll go to a trade school in Japan, which is maybe a year or 2-year course.
So it's not a master's.
It's not a master's. Japan only has 1 or 2 universities that offer a master's in conference interpreting. And I think one of them is actually translation interpreting hybrid. But it is more of a trade in Japan. And so I did not do that. And the other pattern would be to come to Middlebury and get your degree here and then go back and work in Japan. And I also didn't do that. My MA is in something completely different. So for me, I got trained on the job. When I got my first job, I applied and they said, "Hey, can you interpret?" I said, "I don't know, maybe." And they're like, "Well, why don't you just interpret this interview?" And I'm like, "Well, that's me speaking. That's very hard to do." But I basically gave my answers in 2 languages and then they were impressed and they had a good training program on the job. But I am what I like to call an interpreting nerd. So I read all of Andy Gillies' work. I read all of the training material that any major interpreting school would use. And then I joined practice groups like Grint's Academy that you mentioned is an online interpreting school. We practice together. We use UN speeches and keep each other up to speed. So.
And what about your Japanese language? I mean, you didn't just learn by watching anime. You must have lived in Japan for a while or went to school just for Japanese language, right?
No, actually, that's
You're much better than I.
Well, this is why I'm a weird person to have on this podcast. Hopefully I can give other people a route to take that is not the traditional one. Many of my peers lived there for extended periods of time, like you mentioned. Many of my peers or grew up there and are actually, native Japanese speakers, even though they look like me. And in my case, I started studying when I was 16.
They grew up in, but in the sense that they grew up in Japan.
Yes.
But they're
missionaries, kids, or diplomatic transfers. I know some people who are just, their, dad ran a company and he got transferred to Japan, so they went over too. So there are native Japanese speakers who aren't ethnically Japanese.
That's the right term. Yes. So
I am not one of those either.
For people who don't know about Japan, there's Japanese people and then there's foreigners. And foreigners is like anything that doesn't look Japanese. Well,
exactly.
From my experience of living there.
Exactly. So in Tokyo, it was fine. Living in Tokyo, people didn't really point and stare at you, but anywhere you go out in the country, it's like, whoa, like a zebra walking down the street.
Have you ever had? I mean, your Japanese skills are probably amazing, especially compared to mine. Have you ever been in a situation where, just because of your looks, some people would just try to speak English to you, and then you would speak Japanese, and then they will keep on speaking English, although it's horrible English, and your Japanese is much better than theirs. And then what happens is what I call a duel. So we kind of look at each other, and then at some point, my Japanese is much better than their English, and then they crack, and then they're like, "Okay, we'll keep on in Japanese." And this is kind of how it happened for me.
I have had that duel, but since I didn't mention this, my background is in TESOL, so teaching English as a second language. I tend to let them win. So
Oh.
I have had the duel and I've tried to press forward, but usually I will let the other party win. If they really want to speak English, we'll do that. And then if it doesn't work, then I'll step in.
Well, that's true
You make
too,
me
right?
look
You want to,
terrible.
well, yeah, you want to give the other person the opportunity to maybe practice something that they don't usually practice, whereas your Japanese is perfect. So yeah.
Oh, no, it's not perfect.
No?
No.
Well, I know how to count to 5 in Japanese. So that's, if I can learn how to count to 6, I'll have learned something.
Roku.
I'll get what?
There's a gin called Roku that's very popular right now. So
Yes.
Okay.
that'll be your tip for remembering
Roku.
6.
Okay, cool.
And so we talked a little bit about the schools, and then when you show up in the booth, some people may be surprised about because basically when we don't look ethnically Japanese and we don't fit in a box, because Japan's a society where you kind of you have to fit in a box, then people must be at least at first surprised, right?
Of course. I mean, I've been interpreting for 15 years and many of my peers now know me or at least have heard of me. I don't want to sound overly proud, but that's the reality.
I mean, it's a hard language to master.
But initially, especially when I was trying to break out of just being in Ohio and start working in bigger conference settings, it was hard. It still is sometimes hard. So I just, greet them politely in Japanese first thing when I open the door, and then hopefully we have a good relationship after that. I try very hard to be a very good booth partner because of exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And I mean, I find also like with a name like Brian Bickford, it's like, oh, this guy speaks French and Spanish. Like, so yeah, I get it.
You can't tell anymore.
No, you can't tell anymore.
Yeah.
And by the way, Brian, if you want to learn one more word in Japanese, Allyson comes from Ohio, and Ohio in Japanese means good morning.
Ohio. Yeah.
So exactly.
Ohayou gozaimasu. It's not morning right now.
Oh, arigato, I know how to say it too. So
very good.
See?
And arigato gozaimasu is thank you very much, right?
Yes.
There you go.
And have people ever been doubtful about your abilities at first when you go into the booth, or just because we don't fit in this stereotypical type that they would expect?
That's a very interesting question. I've never had I've never had a booth partner tell me, are you sure you're up to this? Or do you want me to take the E to J and you do the J to E or something like that? I've never had that experience. I do get asked by clients to have a pre-meeting, and the pre-meeting is to see if I can speak Japanese. Like, can you really do this thing that your resume says you can do? And so my colleagues who are non-native speakers call it a level check. They just want to hear you.
Mm-hmm. So do they ask for an N1, for instance? Like
no.
For those who are listening, and there are different levels of Japanese. N5 is kind of the recognized first level, and N1 is the hardest level. And let's say a Japanese child that would do elementary, senior, and high school would be able to pass the N1 test. So it's a Japanese proficiency test.
So I'm like an N6. I'm below the N5.
They don't test for that.
They don't do that. There's no test for that.
So do they ask for an N1?
I do hold an N1. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Most of my clients aren't really aware of it, and most of my colleagues don't care because it's only a written test. It has nothing to do with translation ability. It has nothing to do even with speaking ability. And so I think one agent asked for it, and that was it.
Okay.
I have a question about preparation. Because for us using the same alphabet to do preparation in English, French, it's not that difficult, I find. But like, is it more difficult if you're writing in Japanese, like when you're trying to prepare for a conference?
So there are some terms that I will not be able to read the kanji easily offhand. Do we need to explain kanji, or is that kind of universal?
Japanese characters.
Okay.
That are not readable like the alphabet. So
right. They're ideographs, and they can have multiple pronunciations based on whether they were borrowed from Chinese or original Japanese words that were given that kanji. So there are times in my glossary where I will have a phonetic pronunciation next to it, but in general, it's all about what I'm preparing for and how familiar I am with that topic.
Okay.
So the thing I've found recently is that if I'm trying to use speech recognition with my glossary and I have the phonetic pronunciation written out, then the system is looking for the kanji word and the phonetic pronunciation. It's effectively looking for a repeat, and it's not going to find that when it's listening to the transcript. So it doesn't pop up the word from my glossary when it's transcribing.
Put me in context here.
Sure.
What do you mean by that? This is not a live conference. It's a pre-recorded speech?
No, what I'm talking about is using something like Interpret Bank's ASR or Simo Note.
I never heard of it.
Oh, sorry. They transcribe, and then they also will look for words that in the transcription that are in your glossary.
Oh, okay.
And then they'll pop those up for you. However, if I have
as you speak,
as
you listen,
as you listen, yes,
yeah,
it's a pretty cool tool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
If I have, let's say, this is the Japanese characters, but then I've also written the phonetic next to it in the same line in my glossary software, it won't be able to find that.
Okay.
And
that's overly specific.
Oh no, that's really. Yeah.
Is it like a bit like the Zoom caption feature? So I'm just trying to picture it.
Okay, so you have a transcript of, let's say, I'm in the booth. I connect my console to a splitter, and the splitter goes to my headphones and then to my computer. So my computer's hearing the speaker's audio, and then it starts transcribing. As it's transcribing, cool. It will highlight numbers, dates, and then if, let's say, greenhouse gases is in my glossary, it will, when it hears the person say greenhouse gas, it'll pop up the translation for that on my screen. Yes.
What? What?
Sorry,
I never heard of that.
Repeat the name of this.
What year is this?
Interpret Bank does it, and so does Simo Note, but it's spelled CYMO.
CYMO, okay. Alain has already downloaded both as we speak.
I like Interpret Bank because it's also glossary management, and it does a really good job at that. I'm not paid by them.
No.
We
this is not a sponsored show. We don't make money with this show, so we do not sponsor. Nobody wants us to sponsor anything. Don't worry.
Excellent.
Yet.
Interpret
been a year.
We're waiting for your call.
Okay, yeah.
It's been a year, Alain. I don't think that we're gonna get any calls anytime soon.
We're gonna get to 50 episodes soon. Terminology software for interpreters. Wow. Okay. That is really interesting. So you have to connect a physical device.
Ooh, that could be a whole conversation. It does have to be connected somehow to your laptop. There's ways to work around it if you're on a RSI platform, but it's difficult, and I've honestly never got it to work correctly. That could be a user error.
Like you wouldn't be able to do it, like just use Zoom or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
No,
but for when you're in the booth, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
You just split the audio line. One goes into your computer.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. I've never heard of it. Is it especially for Japanese interpreters use this?
Nope.
Or no?
Nope. I am very into computer assisted interpreting. I want to be at the forefront of it. So I try all kinds of things. I've tried bilingual captioning that's not for interpreters. The two solutions that I've mentioned are specifically for interpreters.
Okay.
Oh,
but no, it's not a Japanese market thing.
Are you learning French by any chance? Because you may be taking our jobs pretty soon.
No. I have passable Spanish and that's it.
Okay. But be careful, Spanish interpreters out there. Allison's coming for you.
but you're aware. I mean, I'm not sure if it's common knowledge, but Spanish and Japanese to me sound so similar. People wouldn't think that, but if I say casa in Japanese and casa in Spanish, I mean, it's a different meaning, but it's the same sound.
Pronunciation-wise, it's very similar.
Yeah.
And the first immigrants to Japan were Portuguese. So there's words like pan, which is bread, and that have seeped into the Japanese vernacular.
I think that's zubon as well, right?
Yes, zubon. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Which means pants, Brian.
Okay.
It used to mean pants, but now it's an old word. And now people say pants, but pants used to mean underwear. And it's very complicated.
Yeah.
And if it's in the pandemic, they're optional anyways, right? Like back in 2019.
I want to talk about the techniques when interpreting. Brian and I do French and English, seldom Spanish, but it's out there. But the word order is the same. So we can basically start a sentence and with whatever way it goes, we can just follow our way through.
Yeah.
But what about Japanese? Do you need a buffer? Do you just jump right in? How do you deal with the subject? There's so many things here. So bombarding you with questions here.
No, that's okay. Japanese has an SOV order. So the verb comes at the very end of the sentence, regardless of how long the preamble is. It can be time, place, person, all this information with clauses, and then there's a verb, which means you don't have past, present, affirmative, negative, any of that until you hear the verb. And this is where décollage is important. You need to keep you need to be able to have a very long ear voice span, but you also need anticipation. And so what I teach my students is I will play like 3 or 4 words of a speech and say, okay, can we make a meaningful chunk out of this? Can we put a verb here and then keep going until we can hear the verb? So I teach chunking, I teach anticipation in order that they can deal without having that verb. There's a lot of formulaic language in what we are used to dealing with in the conference setting. So if the person stands up and they say, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to," you know that they're probably going to talk about, discuss, introduce something in that vein. Like they're not going to stand up and say, "Today I'm going to completely disagree with everything the last speaker said." It's very uncommon. So I teach my students to anticipate based on common sentence patterns and to chunk, to make shorter sentences where
Would
they
you call it like what you call chunk? When I was at university, we called it the salami technique.
Yes.
But it would be like the salami technique plus verb?
Yes. So I'm teaching them to add a verb so that they can get that shorter sentence. And
is that a common technique, or did you come up with it?
When I've been listening to my booth partners, I think everyone does it inherently, but they don't know that they're doing it.
So, question: as a non-Japanese speaker, you say it's SOV, the sentence structure. Do Japanese people who are listening, do they not know what the sentence is going to be until they hear the verb? Like, is it like basically, I don't understand, and then the verb comes and you're like, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about?
I think in many cases, one, the reality is in most impromptu discourse, we speak in much shorter sentences.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going on and on and on and on, and then there's a verb.
Like in French.
So in day-to-day conversation, it's not an issue. But I think that when a Japanese speaker is listening to that on and on and on in a formal setting, they have a good idea of what verb is coming.
Okay.
And I teach them to use that instinct to go ahead and apply the verb. And then if honestly, it doesn't steer me wrong very often, is probably the question people listening to this are going to ask. How often are you wrong when you anticipate that verb? And not very often. If this is the scope of meaning, maybe the person wanted to be more on this side and I was more in the middle when I guessed their verb, but it's usually pretty accurate. And if it's not, you're doing your salami technique. So in the next section, you can make it more clear. You have the space to clarify the nuance in the next sentence.
And how do you judge for Keigo, or in other words, like more formal Japanese?
So that's very interesting. Japanese has a very hierarchical structure to their society, and so you address people in different ways, whereas the English I'm hearing has zero formality. Like, I've sometimes gone into a meeting where a president of a company is addressed by their first name, which is a huge taboo in culturally by the Americans who are speaking, and they don't know it. So that is an area, especially in like those one-on-one consecutive meetings, where I have a good sense of the hierarchy in the meeting, and I will apply the Keigo going into, so I'll apply the formal language onto the English that I'm hearing so that it's respectful to the person who's receiving it.
Is that like kind of like saying the san at the end of the name? Like I hear that a lot in like, for example, for car manufacturers, Japanese car manufacturers, whenever they introduce the executive team or whatever, it's always with the san at the end.
It's similar, but it's not as simple as just applying a thing to the end of the name. There's also different verbs that you use depending on the height of the person, the rank of the person.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about you, Alain, but I always just keep the san in French.
Ooh, that's
do you do that?
What do you mean?
Like if someone is called, I'm not sure, like it's say a typical Japanese name and then they add san at the end.
So let's say in English, they introduce them as Yamamoto-san.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to keep the san in French?
I have been, but I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not.
Well,
that's interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's say Yamamoto-san. Yamamoto, hello, this is Yamamoto-san coming to the stage to talk. Yeah, I mean, it depends if someone had said it. I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. It's for the listeners. Yeah. I never thought about it in that way. I was actually wondering a bit in the beginning. Yeah.
The biggest problem is that there's no gender in there's no gendered language in Japanese for the most part. And so Yamamoto-san could be female or male. And to be honest, I tend to assume that they are male because there's a tendency to use females' first names, and I've been wrong before.
Okay. What do you mean?
I've said Mr. Yamamoto, assuming that it was going to be a male given the situation, the type of company, and it was actually a female Yamamoto-san.
Okay.
So misled my audience.
Yeah. Well, and then you catch up at the next sentence and...
There's also no plural in Japanese. So you can have, paper or papers, and we have no idea as the interpreter, You just kind of have to make some guesses.
A certain number of papers.
Yeah, a certain number between 1 and 100.
An undisclosed amount.
Well, that makes it sound awfully secretive.
Yeah.
Do you find sometimes in Japanese, they would speak a lot, but say very little, just because of the formality of the language. Because of that reason, personally, I think I would find going from Japanese to English or French simpler just because of that, because sometimes they would go on with a bunch of sounds that, they're just there for formality rather than meaning. Do you have the same idea?
It's almost harder for me because I know that those sounds are taking up a lot of air and mean absolutely nothing to the English speakers that are listening to them. So I hate to create non-meaning bearing output, but that's what's being said. And there's also a lot of repetition. For example, we can have a discussion and then the moderator will say, okay, just to confirm, this is everything that we just talked about. We literally finished the discussion and now I'm going to say everything all over again.
I feel like we do that in some extent in French. Like I feel like we like to hear each other speak a lot. I don't know.
No, but the example, but just to put the idea in your mind, Brian. If I say arigatou gozaimasu, makoto. If I say makoto ni arigatou gozaimasu, basically I could say thank you very much, but in Japanese it just sounds a lot longer.
Yes.
And right. And I could say domo arigatou gozaimasu, which will also be thank you very much. So how would you interpret that higher level in English when you do your interpretation?
I'd like to express my sincere gratitude is more formal than thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are ways to be a lot more polite in English too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because like one of the big things too is if someone isn't interpreting everything, then they think that there's a problem with the interpretation. So
that's where I was heading. Yeah.
The reality of Japanese to English is that Japanese takes more syllables to convey the same meaning, which is what Alain is referring to. Let's take hello for an example. Konnichiwa, about 5 syllables, whereas hello or hi, even greetings is only 2, which is a rather formal hello. So we're always going to be working a bit slower and maybe with a little bit of filler when we're going from Japanese to English because it takes so much more time to say the same thing.
It's a bit like dubbing for a movie. You don't want the lips to move without having any sound.
Right.
Now, how do you go the other way where you're doing in Japanese, you do the verb at the end, but then what happens when you're listening to Japanese and the verb comes in the end, but you have to interpret it into English and the verb has to come much sooner? How does that work?
Well, that's what I was talking about before with anticipation. You anticipate the verb, you chunk so that the verb you need here is not necessarily the verb that applies to the whole sentence. And sometimes you make mistakes. That's part of the learning process, but you fix those in the next section.
Okay. Now, I have another question in terms of like your client base. Do you have some clients in the United States and some clients in Japan?
I do.
And so how do you deal with the time change? Because it's a huge time change, right? Time difference between both.
I don't do a lot of RSI assignments on Japanese time. I'm on the East Coast in the US. If it's my morning, then it's Japan's evening. And if it's my evening, it's Japan's morning. So I do some 2 to 4 hour events that way. But there are times where I'll work overnight just because I'm really interested in an event and I can do it RSI. And then there are also sometimes when I go to Japan to work events.
Okay.
And when you said that you don't do many RSI, is it a matter of choice, or is it because Japan still does a lot of on-site events or accompanying groups or things like that?
Japan does a lot of smaller web conferences. So like a Zoom meeting 2 hours between two parties, that's very common. And then having a Japanese language channel for a international event is also very common. But to have your interpreting be remotely provided for an event in Japan is not that common. They just didn't quite get it during COVID, and now it's over, so they don't need to.
And if you have to travel to Japan, is it like the client is requesting you to travel to Japan? Like they'll pay for everything, or?
There are times where that is the case. The number of interpreters is declining, unfortunately, as people retire and new people don't jump at the opportunity
In
to become an
Japan.
interpreter. Yeah.
Okay.
I attribute it to the AI boom. Everyone thinks that our jobs are going away and that there's no future in this career.
And they're
I
not.
boldly disagree. Yes, they're not.
We're on the same bandwagon on that one.
But because of that, there aren't enough people getting to mastery of either language that would even consider going into an interpreting program.
But what about let's say interpretation in the justice system or in hospitals, where, well, I do have an experience actually with an interpreter in Japan, and it was kind of a strange one. I had surgery in Japan 7 years ago now because I had an unfortunate accident in Kyoto. I needed knee surgery. I mean, I tore a ligament, and my Japanese is good enough to get by. And they wanted me to go to the hospital the day before to do a bunch of health checks. And at the last meeting that they scheduled, it was with an anesthetic doctor. And then they provided an interpreter, to my surprise, without telling me, but it was on an iPad. So I was there. The nurses were there. The anesthetic doctor, we'll call it. It was there. And then there was an iPad. And then there was an interpreter. And then she was supposed to do consecutive interpretation, but she couldn't understand any of my questions in English. So basically, I just switched to Japanese, and I said, "I'm sorry, that's it. That's the way it is." And I just basically did all by myself. They were very kind to try to provide it, but for the interpreter especially, it was a terrible experience, I'm sure.
Wow, that is tough.
Yeah.
So there is a need for that, actually. There's I read an article recently about a huge shortage of legal interpreters for court cases, for working with police, and they need not just English, because many of the foreigners that are residing in Japan have other native languages, and so they need more people who can converse between Japanese and, say, I don't want to marginalize a group, language B. And
yeah, or like there's a lot of countries that are a lot closer than an English-speaking country to Japan. So yeah, there would be a lot more immigrants from those countries too, right?
And they just don't have the resources. But
so I'm guessing relay. Sorry, but the relay must be more common then.
Ooh,
Nobody thought about it.
That's a good question. I don't know if anyone thinks about.
You just discovered a new market.
Let's say Malaysian to English, English to Japanese.
If you're not a trained conference interpreter, have you ever heard of relay? Like, do you know how to set that up?
That's true.
Would you think of that? So it's a different world. But I would imagine there's some of that happens.
It's an unexplored market, Alain.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Mrs. Brian.
Unfortunately, community interpreting is often volunteer, if not low paid in Japan.
Well,
oh wow, okay. Well, it's low paid in Canada too for
unfortunately,
for community. Yeah.
Do you know anything about access to justice and language in Japan?
That's a very good question.
If you don't know, we can just.
I don't have enough information to provide a comprehensive answer, but I know that interpreters are provided in court cases.
Okay, at least there's that. Yeah, I'm sure that. But I mean, I'm sure that in Japan, in the next few years, language needs are going to boom in Japan because Japan. Maybe it's a surprise to a lot of people, but Japan is starting to open up to the world in terms of immigration because so many people are either moving there or more tourism or all kinds of situations right now, right?
Right.
And they need workers, and they're bringing some people from abroad. So I'm sure that there will be a lot of need for language services.
And I think that is Japan in the same boat as Canada in terms of the aging population, where they need a young workforce.
That's exactly right. They have
much
this
worse.
history of manufacturing, of lots of beautiful artisan techniques, and no one to carry them on. No one to do the manual labor, do the learning. And so they're trying out all kinds of programs because their population is aging and shrinking.
Yeah, Japan is losing about 1 million people a year, basically, on average. And they were at their peak at 127 million. And just a rough estimates would be like 85 million by 2050 or something like that. So they're going to lose tens of millions of people.
Unless they do something today, which will require immigration, which will require interpreters.
Yeah.
Which will require Alain to open a company that does Malaysian to English and then English to Japanese. Everything is falling into place here.
I'm basically checking for the future right now. I'm preparing my return, of course. Wow, that is really, really interesting. And you must have had sometimes some very awkward situations, or surprising situations, like for different. Well, let me put it this way. Sometimes when we're interpreting, there are some cultural differences, and they're accentuated with Japanese culture because Japanese culture and let's say North American, or North American culture there can be a divide. And when people are meeting, let's say at a company or you're doing a tour or something, and Americans, let's say, tend to be very casual, and Japanese tend to be a bit more reserved, not to. And I'm guessing that the interpreter must sometimes act as a mediator for cultures as well. There must be that aspect for you guys.
There are definitely times where that happens, but I feel like over my career, so the last 15 years, it's changed a lot because of globalization, because we are increasingly connected with each other on Zoom, on social media. And when, say, a 60-year-old man 10 years ago came to the US for the first time, he had a lot of culture shock. Whereas not that same 60-year-old man, because now that man is 70 and he's retired. And then a 60-year-old man today comes to Japan. Apologies, to the US. He has more of a familiarity. He knows more of what to expect. And so while there are huge cultural faux pas that my American clients are constantly making, and I try to only bring them up if I've been asked or if it's impeding communication.
Would it be like more like English speaking people towards a Japanese speaking person, or the other way around? Is there one that's more prevalent than the other?
That's a good question. So the English speaking clients are more likely to commit cultural faux pas. The Japanese clients are more likely to speak in a vague way or use a communication pattern that doesn't fit what the English speakers are used to. So even if it's delivered in English, it sounds non-committal, or it sounds like a decision has reached when it really hasn't been.
Yeah, I feel that for my years in Japan, I always felt that Japanese people never say no, although they say no.
Right.
There won't be an explicit no, yes or no.
There's
It'll
never a
be,
no.
and the no in Japan is more like maybe. So if Japanese people say maybe, it means no.
Or we'll look into that.
Yeah, we'll look. Yeah. That's
Cool.
right.
We'll definitely consider that.
We'll get back to you. Yeah.
So
I'll call you next week.
There are times.
No, I'll call you.
There are times when I will pull my client aside and say, "Hey, just so you know, that's not what that means.
No.
We're not really looking into that." But most of the time, it's very hard. You have to let people communicate the way they want to. Your Japanese client could have had a reason for being vague. They want to leave the door open to make some decision later, or they need to build consensus when they go back to their parent company, and then they'll figure it all out and they'll come up with a solution. But you can never take over the communication.
Yeah, because it could be somebody who doesn't have the authority to say yes or no. So if they're just being vague, maybe they're just, waiting to speak to the person who does have that ability.
Right.
Yeah. Now I have a question. And this is just in my head as an assumption, but I just want to confirm. If you're interpreting in the United States, it's usually people who come from Japan, and if you're interpreting in Japan, is it strictly people coming from the US, or is it other English-speaking countries as well?
Oh, lots of other English-speaking countries. So the interesting thing about working in the US as an A English, B Japanese interpreter is that I was constantly working into my B language, because the majority of what I did was a bunch of Americans are having a meeting and the Japanese want to hear what's going on. But in Japan, it was almost the opposite. Like there were a lot of large events where I had no idea what country the English speakers were from. Or there would be ones where I was working for the Indian embassy from Japanese to English, or the Australian commerce, what are those? Chamber of Commerce or something like that. And so it'd be nice if they could get an Australian English native, but you can't always pick and choose what interpreter you can get for any given event.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question. I heard that Japanese people don't often do 30 minutes in the booth. They do much shorter turns. Is that true?
15 minutes is standard.
15?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we often have 3 or sometimes 4 interpreters going through the booth.
Oh, okay. So you have a team of 4 for a full day?
The most I've had is 4, and it was a highly technical conference. So I was on for 15 minutes, and then I went off, and I was back on 45 minutes later because there were so many partners to go through.
And we've been doing this all wrong, Alain.
Yeah. Yeah, I one of my friends who also speaks Japanese started recently doing interpretation between English and Japanese. And he told me one time his booth partner wanted to do, I think it was a 10-minute after 10, and he was kind of surprised. I was like, 10, that's quite short.
Might have been a new interpreter.
Okay.
I've never had anyone ask for 10, but 15 is standard.
Okay. For us, it's 30 minutes because, you want to give your booth partner some time to get some coffee, to go to the restroom, to make 3 phone calls and answer 4 emails.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how long that takes. Got it.
Exactly, to the minute.
No, that's interesting, because the UN research that people often refer to suggest that we should take turns and that set all of their restrictions. I thought it was after 20 minutes you start to lose concentration and make mistakes.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I mean, I've had a really tough time actually trying to find a lot of this research that people keep referring to. I'm like, I keep on looking for
I will
it,
send it to you.
Awesome. Thank you. That's what I was getting to. I'm like,
I know exactly where it is.
Cool. Well, you're not saying I'll get back to you, so I know you will.
Nope. I know exactly which book I read it in.
Awesome.
This is being recorded. But the thing is, I think that, of course, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to read the research because it must depend on the level of technicality. There are, let's say I'm doing some conversation for some, okay, I'm not saying it's easy, but let's say a union meeting versus, let's say, a medical conference. Of course, the medical conference, we might want to do 20 minutes. But if it's a meeting and people are just basically chatting about certain things, X, Y, Z, then there's nothing technical about it besides a few acronyms. 20 minutes would be, no, but at least no one that I know in this market would want to do a 20-minute.
Yeah, I don't know if, as a business owner, I think it would be very difficult for me to find a team of 2 that would be willing to do like a full day in, say, engineering or something like that. Like that would be, I think, like, yeah, three people in a booth, 20 minutes each. That would be pretty good for, especially like, yeah, the very specific engineering, medical, legal. Yeah, there's some fields where you're just like, do you need that extra little break so you could do a good job?
Because the thing is, it's not only about the 20, like if you do interpreting for 20 minutes, and let's say the last 10 minutes, you're more likely to make certain mistakes that you would not have done in the first 5 minutes. I think that sometimes in the first 5 minutes, you may make more mistakes because you're actually not warmed up. And if your break is not long enough, you might feel actually quite tired when you come back. So you kind of also need to, like, I appreciate the 30 or 1 hour break personally. If let's say we're 3 interpreters for a whole day, I get a 1 hour break plus the breaks that are already in the conference.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm actually performing better than not only if the interpreting is shorter, but actually if the break is longer. That should have an impact.
I find it a lot better too when we're 3 too, because there's always like an extra person in the booth, and then one person can actually go on a physical break or leave if they have to, right? Like, I find that when there's 3 of us, it's such a better working atmosphere in general. Now, whether clients want to pay for 3 interpreters or not, or 4 interpreters, that's a different debate altogether. But yeah, no, I think that I would love to, if you could send me that material, that would be
of course
awesome. Thank you.
I would be very interested to do some experiments and see if, a 15-minute session is chosen for Japanese and English because the languages are so different and maybe concentration is higher.
I would suspect that.
Because you guys were likening it to German, right? Like where the verb comes last, but maybe a little even more difficult.
Well, it's more than just the verb. It's just the way it's, I would even say that the way thoughts are built is different culturally when it comes to the level of language. And the level of language is way beyond what we have in French with, let's say, the polite form. It's literally a different sounding word depending on the ranking of the person you're talking to. So it makes it at a certain level even a different sounding language in a way, because of that. And I think that all of that is very heavy when it comes to mental load. So that's why I would say, let's say 3 interpreters, 15 minutes each, you get a half an hour break for 15 minutes of work. That seems logical. If it's only 2 interpreters, 15 minutes each, you don't really get a break. And I understand why then you would have 15-minute turns. Would that sound logical?
It does, but I would have to see some sort of, test research to prove it out, but it does make sense.
Now, how do people find you? Like, is there a Japanese association of interpreters and translators?
There is. Okay. So I'm a member and a former board director for the Japan Association of Translators, which is a mix of translation and interpreting, and then kind of like the ATA or FIT. And then there's the Japan Association of Conference Interpreters, which is only, I don't know, maybe 10 years old. It's a pretty new organization. And they also have a certification system similar to IEC, where you get recommended by people you've been in the booth with, and so they have certified and non-certified members. And then, gosh, where do people find me? It's a lot of recommendation.
On this podcast.
On this podcast, yes.
Is it a lot of word to mouth, like with colleagues?
Yeah, it's a lot of, hey, I can't take this job. Can you? The Grins Academy that I've mentioned already on this show, but I'm going to mention it again, is a huge network because it's all aspiring interpreters or people who want to keep their skills up and are professionals. It's a big mix of people, and we share lots of work with each other.
So let's say I start studying Japanese again, and I sharpen my skills as an experienced interpreter of French and English. Could I attend a Grin? You said
Grins, yeah,
Grins
like
Academy. Grins Academy, in order to kickstart my career as a Japanese English interpreter.
Yes, and actually, we have a practice group for Japanese French as well.
Oh,
so it's a great opportunity, especially with Middlebury going away. Have you heard that they're discontinuing their program? So I think that's going to make the need for interpreting online schools, interpreting practice groups, alternative training all the more necessary.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you're losing like a big think tank, basically, of interpretation. Yeah.
Especially when I was reading The Economist a few days ago, and they say that surprisingly, the need for interpreters has risen by 7% last year.
What? Yeah. We haven't been replaced by AI yet?
No, actually, AI is actually creating more work. Maybe because it can't do the job and people think it can. I don't know.
Yeah. I took a picture at a conference recently. No confidential information, but it's just of a loading circle on a video that someone was trying to show. Just loading. And I'm like, this is why this is one of the reasons why I still have a job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't trust my GPS to get me from point A to point B. So,
well, if I have some Rokujin, then I'm having that wheel though after a little while.
I've witnessed that.
Going back to your question, Grins is a great place. There's also EJ Expert. They have an online training program where teacher, owner, operator is based out of California. So she has a lot of ties in Silicon Valley. She also has her own agency as well as being an interpreter herself. So they have a great school, great practice groups. And then if you wanted to go to Japan, you would have lots of options like Simul Academy, which is one of the biggest interpreting schools with their own agency attached because everyone wants to create your own interpreters and then farm them out to people who need them. And then ISS, and yeah, if you just look at interpreting schools in Japanese, there's a lot of places that are still teaching and still have very active, thriving programs. But overall, the numbers are just dropping. It's unfortunate.
Well, maybe means more work for us.
It does, but I
and
worry
opportunities. But it's the same thing everywhere right now. I mean, they say young people today have a lot more work opportunities than we did we did. I mean, I'm 47 now. So
back in my day,
there was not a lot of work. Unemployment in Canada was at 12%, and interest rates were at 20%. But true. Then what happened? I mean, now kids nowadays have a lot of opportunities. You want to be a pilot? Oh, there's a shortage of pilots. You want to be a plumber? There's a shortage of plumbers. There's a shortage of everything right now.
Yeah.
So
all the trades.
Yeah. I guess there's not enough people in the world.
All right. Alain says we need to go make more people. Got it.
Yeah. Okay.
More people, less robots.
All right. So, thank you so much, Allyson, for coming to this podcast, because honestly, I was looking for a long time for someone who would come to talk to us about the Japanese market. And a lot of the Japanese people that I reached out to were either really shy or, I don't know, not so on to the idea. To any Japanese out there listening, I'll be in Tokyo in January. I'll be there for a month, and I'd like to meet some interpreters when I'm out there. I'm sending the word already. So we'll keep in touch, Allyson, and
I'll hook you up. No worries.
Thank you.
I'm not going to Tokyo, but if anybody wants to talk to me, I'm here too. So.
Why don't you come, Brian?
I know you already extended the invite. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, Toronto to Tokyo is a direct flight.
Oh yeah, really? It's not bad.
Yeah,
there you go.
Just watch 3 movies or 2 Christopher Nolan ones, and then you're okay.
Yeah, exactly. Or
JFK.
That's
so true.
All right, everyone. So thank you so much. Everyone, like, share, subscribe, please. It really helps us out, and we'll meet each other again. All right.
Thank you so much, Allyson.
Thanks, guys.